Honestly, I mainly made this video so I could have my sprites dress up in a Batman outfit. I've had a hankering for a cool, dark outfit. No more of the under the sea mermaid stuff. We're going edgy today. I just needed to indulge my current Batman obsession between videos. Or maybe this will be like a Catwoman costume. I'll figure it out. I'm still writing the script. So, I know I'm in the minority about this, but I've always been fascinated by the concept of young Batman. And I don't mean like he's in his early 20s just starting out, like the Battison version, or the Gotham TV show where he's actually a fetus. I mean like high school Batman. And it's because I have never seen someone successfully pull off Bruce Wayne in high school. Because conceptually, it's just really weird. Normally, the fun part of Batman is the dark, muscly vigilante solving mysteries and beating up his rogues gallery on a weekly basis. But high school Batman just takes absolutely everything compelling about normal Batman and is forced to get rid of it all. Like the rogues gallery, they're either younger to match Batman's age or can't be as psychologically menacing. Batman himself, the cape and suit just looks really weird on a teenager, so they might get rid of it entirely. The Batcave, he probably can't spend a lot of time in it since he has to go to high school. His backstory as Batman, where he spent years traveling the world to study martial arts, has to be changed because he's still a teenager. And his gadgets suddenly have to be made by himself instead of Lucius Fox, which begs the question why he's going to school at all. Because when you write Bruce Wayne as a teenager in high school, as he's simultaneously being Batman, you're writing the most obnoxious, edgy teenager ever created who becomes even more annoying considering he's also a billionaire. He's not a tech genius or like charismatic like Iron Man. So most of the time, high school Batman is just like a guy in a black t-shirt who's a bad boy for a small period of his life. He also smokes and gets into fights and hangs out with the cool kids at school. He's a bully who doesn't bully, basically. This might be an act he's playing as a teenager in preparation for his eventual Playboy image, but nothing until then. Honestly, him locking in as Batman and also playing a popular Playboy in high school would have been kind of fun, I guess. But again, I've never seen it done successfully. His rogues haven't manifested yet, or they might in some versions. It really depends. But when they do, it's always dumb. And you'll see it'll be real dumb in the version I'm going to talk about. I think for the longest time, DC has always had difficulty relating to the younger generations in the same way that Marvel has, specifically teenagers and young adults. There is some success with the Arrowverse, Titans, and Young Justice, but Marvel has pretty much cleared them on the TV front in general. I blame pretty bad writing or very ambitious writing, and also the CEO sucks. Whoever is in charge is just doing everything wrong right now and probably hates superheroes. I was legitimately so excited for the Batgirl movie because I was like, wow, what a risky gamble to take on Batgirl before Nightwing or Robin, a movie dedicated to someone who has been historically underutilized or disposed of and never treated with anything more dignifying than just being a girl of Robin or being obsessed with Batman. And, well, look how that turned out. DC just isn't particularly fun right now unless you're keeping up with the comics, so to a lot of young people, if you don't like Batman, DC doesn't have any other interesting characters, which is wrong, but I get why this brand isn't tempting any non-comic readers right now. So, how do you appeal to the younger people who find Marvel more engaging? Well, you take a look at the most popular Marvel character right now, Duke. I haven't seen the Marvel movies yet, so that's my best assumption on who's the most popular hero. I'm getting to the point, but obviously, what DC has always really wanted since their comics era was their own version of Spider-Man. They kind of have that with the Blue Beetle already, a movie that came out in an unfortunate time, but Jaime is going to be ignored for now. Sorry, Jaime fans. This is just a theory, but I think Batman for a lot of young people is someone to be looked up to, while Spider-Man is someone they can already be, and that tends to be the disconnect between Spidey fans and Batman fans. To do a bit of a fun comparison between the Bat and the Spider for a minute, the popularity of Batman as a character and why writers especially tend to be desperate to get their hands on him is just due to how striking the image of a dark vigilante stalking the night of definitely not New York City is. That's why even cinephiles who wouldn't touch superhero movies with like a 10-foot pole find Batman so engaging. And his rogues gallery are all so colorful in comparison to him with their own goals and independent motivations. They can be as extra and insane as possible but still be grounded because Batman himself juxtaposes them. The themes come so naturally. You have anarchy versus order, stability versus chaos, vengeance versus justice. Since Batman's human, a lot of his more interesting rogues are also human and use psychological methods to tire him out, which is unlike a lot of conventional superhero stories. There's just a lot to chew on there. But it's also really understandable why Joy from Woolworths, after a long 8-hour shift, kinda just wants to let loose and watch Spider-Man do his thing instead. It's lighter. Alternatively, Spider-Man has appeal for everyone because he's a young teenager, and also he's just really likable in general. So adults find him endearing, and teenagers teenagers find him relatable. There's a lot of room for him to grow, and watching him grow or growing alongside him is really nice. He doesn't have to be a gritty badass with severe mental issues because he's just like a guy trying to find his place in the world, and as a result, is really palatable and relatable to his target audience. I hope people don't think I'm shading Spider-Man for this or anything. Like, the fact he's more consumable than Batman doesn't make him any less cool. And for a lot of young people, including me, Spider-Man is really personable to them because he's so uniquely normal in comparison to other superheroes who are either inaccessibly rich, or adults with jobs, who are born with superpowers, or are aliens from other planets. And honestly, Spider-Man stories for me can often outshine how dark Batman stories can be, just on the virtue of their charming simplicity and personability. Like, I can't relate to the experience of losing my parents to a violent gun shooting at the tender age of 10, or teaching a 9-year-old the ways of crime fighting, but I can relate to high school problems and losing someone you love dearly, and growing from that. Anyway, since Batman is DC's most popular hero, instead of using their giant library of teenage heroes they already have and taking a gamble on them, DC has, for a long time, tried desperately to make Batman for younger people, since making something Batman related is always a safe bet for them. So there was this era in the 2000s where they were really gunning for young Batman. Terry McGinnis was popular for a while, but that show got cancelled mid-season 3, so while the reach was there, it clearly wasn't as big like Spider-Man as DC wanted. The Batman also had a younger Batman who was more in his early 20s, starting out, and wasn't even good with the police yet, who were still chasing him as a vigilante. This one replaced Commissioner Gordon with a younger detective, and also had a younger Justice League, and even younger sidekicks. I don't think anybody remembered the show but me. It had a really good intro, by the way. You should definitely listen to it. But it also had one of my favorite Batman designs, while also simultaneously having one of the worst Bruce Wayne character designs. Like, I didn't even know that was possible. And now let me show you the insanity that was their concept for Gotham High. Not the comic that we are going to talk about soon, don't worry, but the show. So in 2009, there was a Batman animated show they tried to get off the ground that was meant to rival Spectacular Spider-Man's popularity at the time, called Gotham High. And when I tell you I would make a deal with the devil to get the show in production, I mean it. I would sacrifice every friend and family member and subscriber I have for it. So the conceit is that teenager Bruce Wayne goes to Gotham High School, despite having a company to run, and his classmates consist entirely of his rogues gallery, and also Barbara Gordon's there. This is so clearly a ripoff of Spider-Man that it might be the reason why it never got anything beyond concept art. So Barbara in this is written to be like Gwen Stacy, the girl who's right before your eyes that you never see in a... Sure, why not? At least there's not an eye-clawing age gap or weird power dynamic in this one. There was also apparently like high school stereotypes for each of the rogues. So Mr. Freeze was the cool kid, Bane was the bully, Riddler was the nerd, and Catwoman was like the hot mean girl, I'm assuming. I'm so fascinated by this because this already feels like a fan fiction. But how could you possibly ever get a TV show out of this? What would the episodes be about? Is Batman just not going to appear ever? Or is he going to show up when the rogues cause chaos and nobody bats an eye? I want the second one to be true because that sounds really funny. I guess Barbara would be constantly put in danger for Bruce to save, but isn't there a faculty at Gotham High? Also, would they attempt to murder a classmate? I have so many unanswered questions because this concept demands a kind of status quo that gets disrupted every episode. So, do all the rogues try to take over the school somehow in their own way via class election? And also, what is Bruce Wayne going to be? Is he going to be written like Peter Parker, where he can't choose between his love interests? Because that seems insanely out of character for a guy who has the emotional understanding of a wet piece of bread. I just want 10 seasons of the show, and I'm not even kidding. I want them to start off like how Gumball started off, like very sitcom-y and normal, and then slowly descend into intense rainbow-colored madness as they run out of ideas. This feels very in the vein of Clone High too. In fact, exactly like Clone High. But also just like, I don't think you can force a peg in a square hole with the character of Bruce Wayne. I just don't think that's possible. It's like hypothetical train wreck that we can only imagine in our own minds. Anyway, as bizarre as this concept is, and as bummed out as I was that it never came to fruition, there is more to this story. Alright, so in 2020, there was this comic that came out called Gotham High, and it's very similar to what I just described with the TV show. Not to be confused by Gotham Academy, which was a cute Scooby-Doo gang solving mysteries, and Batman and Robin sometimes showed up in that one. This one's really cute, by the way, I recommend it. Also, whoever wrote the series clearly had a huge crush on Bruce Wayne. You'll be able to see it way too easily. Gotham High, on the other hand, lived in infamy on the internet for a little while because it had such a bad trailer that even people who never talked about comics came out to talk about it. There was a lot of drama surrounding it, how it looked dumb and vapid, and was clearly doing a bad job at trying to appeal to Gen Z and stuff. It seemed like it was trying to go for a Gossip Girl, Riverdale style, where the characters are in high school, but they're all kind of screwed up, and there's a lot of drama and stuff. Just absolutely not what you would expect from a Batman comic of all things. So obviously, not a lot of people read this one, especially Batman fans, who were kind of the target audience, but also not. I think the series was mainly marketed towards young girls who had a passing interest in Batman and had a surface level understanding of its world. And to be honest, I don't think it succeeded in that because I was in that demographic in 2020 and I did not like this trailer. So, Gotham High is focused on the teenage versions of three characters: Bruce Wayne, Jack Napier, and Selina Kyle. So, Batman, the Joker, and Catwoman. This series has no interest in their double identities or who they might become, but just wanted to use their personalities to create this love triangle where Batman and the Joker are kind of fighting for Catwoman's affections, which would never happen in canon, considering most of the time it's Joker and Catwoman fighting for Batman's affections, and they always lose anyway. Also, what an insane concept. What a glorious fact that this piece of media exists and I can read it. Like, that's crazy. This feels like a fic that would get lost in a sea of content in AO3, not something that got officially published. Regardless, the series didn't really last that long, most likely due to the backlash, but I'll be real here, I don't think a lot of people were reading this one, even if Critical Drinker didn't make a video about it. Alright, that's housekeeping out of the way, so let us dive into this train wreck. Let me take you on a journey through the Gotham High comic. And before you leave thinking this will be a standard telenovela type high school drama, no, just you wait. You'll see how insane this gets. You'll be drawn into the insanity as I was. Gotham High starts with narration, and already we have a problem because there is absolutely no way for you to tell who is talking. The story begins with Bruce Wayne getting kicked out of his all-boys prep school and returning to Wayne Manor with Alfred, so I assumed he was narrating. And also Batman, in general, narrates his own stories with grey text boxes, but it wasn't until the end of the first volume that I realized it was actually Selina narrating the whole time. After showing Bruce, it switched to Jack, and the text box says it's their best friend, so I thought that Bruce and Jack were already friends somehow, but no, it's Selina Kyle narrating. So great. I'm glad this is already so easy to follow. The Joker got the most changes done to him as a character in this version. He's just a punk kid in class who's really poor and funny, I guess. Not much else to say about him. Inevitably, he got nerfed the most. He got the Jughead treatment, I think. I'm surprised he didn't go on long tirades about his mediocre haircut. Also, Alfred Pennyworth is a lot younger in this version. He's an uncle of Bruce, not a wise old butler anymore. A lot of people were dunking on Hot Gay Alfred, but I don't mind Hot Gay Alfred. I have a very little opinion on Hot Gay Alfred. It barely changes the story. They gave Alfred a husband in this version, but like, he doesn't live with Bruce at Wayne Manor, which is strange. So when his husband shows up halfway through the story, I was like, what? Who are you, strange man? Also, for some reason, Alfred calls Bruce Master Wayne, even though they're a lot closer in age. And also, Alfred isn't a subordinate. He's like a guardian in this version. I don't know why he calls him Master Wayne, but whatever. So, how does our girl next door, Selina Kyle, fit in this story, you might be asking? And the answer is by being literally next door. We all know that billionaires live right next to decrepit old houses that are yet to be gentrified, right? That's how billionaires work. They don't live behind gates or a mansion on a hill. They live right next to us, common folk. There's just so many weird things to point out, but so Selina and Bruce are childhood friends, right? They played as kids together, and when Bruce returns to Gotham and sees his childhood friend in her house nearby, who he knows is his childhood friend and can recognize the house that she grew up in and is currently living in, it turns out he didn't realize that it was Selina, his childhood friend. So he's just waving at a stranger in this panel, I guess to welcome her to the neighborhood. This comic's so stupid. The world's greatest detective, everybody. So Bruce starts going to class and comes in with this giant black trench coat that's trailing behind him. It gets to be like evocative of Batman, but it looks so edgy and stupid. I was dying looking at it. Can you imagine anyone coming to school dressed like this and taking them seriously? Also, here's one of my favorite lines in the comic from Selina. He's already a card-carrying member of his own club, with only one member. Loser is just loner with an N, isn't it? So that's it's a thing. I'm glad Selena is teaching us so much about the English language today. This is exactly what I wanted from a Batman high school comic. Moving on. So our little trio becomes friends over a game of cards. There's not much to note about it. But now I want to get into something really important here. There's one thing I failed to mention when it came to why Batman is not particularly beloved by younger people in comparison to Spider-Man right now. And it's something this comic comes around to addressing quite poorly. And the answer is, he's a billionaire. And currently, comic writers are yet to realize that the difference between million and billion is not just $1 million. It's a lot more. And people are recognizing that just having that much money at all is awful in itself. It doesn't matter how much you spend if you still have $1 billion. The comics have addressed this to some extent. I believe there's even an arc where Batman just loses all of his assets to one of his rogues and has to continue operating without money, which is cool. I'd actually really love to read that at some point. But ultimately, it's still something people turn away from, and understandably to some extent. An ethical billionaire has been widely accepted as an oxymoron, especially in today's climate. That's why my secret fix that I think writers should use is to just make him less rich. Just make him be a millionaire. That's more than enough to fund the Batman program while also having a company. I get making him the richest man in Gotham is really tempting because it makes him sound really cool and wealthy, but it's just not worth it, guys. Like, it seriously isn't. He's basically Lex Luthor, but doesn't want to kill Superman. I mean, in some instances, but most of the time, he doesn't want to kill Superman. So Bruce Wayne in this comic shows how his wealth is attractive to a lot of his classmates. He has the latest tech, he gets his food delivered, and his clothing is really expensive. And I naively expected that the story would delve into Bruce having some class consciousness revelation and seeing the disparity of wealth between him and his new classmates, but instead, Selina Kyle, the character who is narrating, who herself is quite poor and is the most objective voice to this situation, only says, "It's hard to make friends when your clothes cost more than working families make in a year," which is the most tone-deaf statement I've ever heard in any piece of media I have ever consumed. Like, there's layers to that. That's a crazy thing to say, Selena. And you would think it's like Bruce is just a rich idiot and doesn't realize his privilege, and maybe it will reveal something about his personality in this version. But bizarrely, it doesn't. Selena's like, he's so rich that he can't make friends. He only makes followers. And the reader is left like, okay, isn't that bad? Do you want me to feel sorry for him or not? Alright, so we've reached the start of the mystery. While Bruce is in the hallway talking to Harvey Dent, suddenly the lights go out. Two people rush Bruce, and he gets stabbed with a syringe and faints. And then Harvey just disappears. Turns out that Harvey has been kidnapped by these dark, mysterious figures for a ransom. So clearly something fishy is going on. And just when you get invested in the mystery of what just happened, we immediately find out that Selina erases the security cam footage of what happened, so she had likely masterminded this weird attack on Bruce and Harvey. And I was all in at this point. I was so worried that this would be like a classic romance drama, but it seemed committed to some thriller and mystery, and I was like, why is Selina getting revenge on Bruce? What did he do? Is she after his money? Who are the other students at Gotham High for helping to take him down? Also, Jack, is really obsessed with Selena Kyle and has a shrine of her in his bedroom. I don't know about that. I thought it was important to mention. I haven't mentioned Joker yet. Like, well, that's the thing, I guess. I'd say pretty anti-Joker thing to do, considering it's not a shrine of Batman, but whatever. So, Selena goes home after all this to talk to her dad, who is suffering from Alzheimer's. The reason she's really desperate for money right now is because she needs it to move him to a better care facility, since she can't take care of him herself. But the funny thing is, she's like, you think my life is complicated, while talking about her father, and then says, turns out Harvey's kidnapping was all over the news. And you deleted the security footage that showed Harvey getting kidnapped. Like, that was directly your fault. And you might have also orchestrated it. You made it complicated. What am I reading right now? So Bruce is in the hospital after he got injected, and turns out whatever the chemicals were, they were illegal. And after a talk with Alfred, an actually very Batman move, while in his hospital gown, he opens the window and runs off to find out about the drug and why he was targeted, and why Harvey, of all people, was kidnapped instead of him. There's not much to say during this time. We meet this version's Poison Ivy, who's like a chemist as well, but also their age. Young Ivy in most iterations tends to be quite a nerd, so it's not that weird. We also get Barbie Gurdon, and she does absolutely nothing for the rest of the story. She's just kind of there, I guess. Sorry, Babs. There's just too much plot happening. We can't involve you in all of it. Also, the police don't find anything, so they just kind of give up on it. And I don't think police just like give up on cases without even interviewing the people involved, but okay. So this kid's a billionaire? One of the richest people in Gotham? Wasn't there an investigation done into the drug, at least? So, our boy Bruce does some investigating to find out who sabotaged the cameras by going to the security room and finding a single strand of long brown hair. And obviously he's suspicious of Selena, so he goes on a date with her, to, like, steal one of her hairs. And inevitably he's right. Honestly, the story should have just been written from his perspective. It makes no sense it's from Selena's perspective. He's the one unfolding the mystery. Like, I don't get this at all. Also, in a hilarious moment, Bruce goes home and finally decides to look at the treatment for the drug he was injected with, and turns out that there's no antidote. And he has the mildest reaction to it I've ever seen. He's like, I guess I'd throw up or die. Like, okay. He's only mildly annoyed that Selena injected him with a drug with no cure, as if it's an inconvenience. Also, this plot thread is never resolved. They say there's no antidote, but also there is one. Alfred just gets it for him. So, okay, I guess that was pointless. So, the plot at this point culminates with Bruce's biggest plan to unveil this conspiracy that's going on against him. And he does this by having the biggest party for Gotham High called the Bruce Bash, which, to be invited in, you need a QR code. His house even has like a signal with a W on it, a la bat signal. Also, there's synchronized swimmers and a helicopter someone is singing from, which is just counterintuitive if you want to be heard, but whatever. Anyway, this party kind of reconfirms Bruce and Jack's close friendship. They've kind of become bros, despite the fact both of them have a thing for Selena. Also, this section has another gem of a line from Selena. Maybe Bruce playing a game, and I don't mean Fortnite. So, you're welcome. It's so stupid. Anyway, this is where our story really starts ramping up to the climax of Act 2. So all of a sudden, everyone goes on Instagram and sees that Selena's new Instagram story is of her having been kidnapped with a ransom of $5 million required by midnight. So Jack and Bruce essentially team up to save Selena. Obviously, Selena getting kidnapped is a buzzkill for most of the partygoers, so everyone goes home. Also, I can't not mention this. So the police show up to investigate, as always, and they're like iffy about the fact alcohol was being served to minors. So Alfred shows up and is like, I'm the guardian. I'm responsible for this party. And then he gives the police alcohol to hush them and make them go away. And then Alfred immediately closes the door behind them and he's like, God, the police in Gotham are corrupt. As always, they're so rotten. And it's like, you're the reason they're corrupt, Alfred. Like, you gave them a bribe in the first place. Did you not want them to take it? Also, they keep saying the police are useless. And I have to say, they really are if two students from the same high school got kidnapped and they just went home with plastic bags of booze. Like, at that point, it's an institutional problem. Like, Jesus. So Bruce tracks down Selena because he put a location tracker on everyone who arrived at the party, which I will give props is another psychotic and Batman thing to do, as screwed up as it is. And then Bruce gets captured by some thugs who presumably also kidnapped Selena, and they get tossed in this, like, warehouse, I guess. And the crazy thing is, Bruce and Selena just escape to Wayne Manor with no problems. Like, the thugs just threw them in some random warehouse, then left without even a measure to ensure that they stayed there. There was no security guard or anything. Like, these guys suck at their jobs. And for 2 days, Selena just stays at Wayne Manor and doesn't notify authorities or her father about the fact that she's actually okay. And they're on the couch discussing, like, maybe it's time you should tell them, Selena. And she's like, no, I like it here. And Alfred is inexplicably completely fine with it too. So our two lovebirds bond and talk about their respectively terrible childhoods and how they used to be friends. Also, Bruce apparently sent Selena a bunch of emails after the tragic death of his parents, and Selena never replied because she was too broken over the death of his mother, which I think would have been harder on him. I don't know, Selena, this is kind of dumb. So after realizing how stupid they're being, Selena finally tells the world that she's actually not kidnapped anymore, she escaped on her own, and she's now okay and goes home. So that was a pointless thing that happened. Okay, so until now, Bruce suspected Selena, but since she was kidnapped, she's been ruled out. So who has actually been behind all these strange kidnappings? Well, as he's pondering this question, Bruce sees Jack start stalking Selena by taking pictures of her from outside her house. Now Bruce starts suspecting Jack, his bro. I mean, it's an obvious conclusion, but whatever. Bruce also talks to Harvey to learn about how, like, what happened when he was kidnapped, and turns out they were, like, the same two thugs who kidnapped Selena, and one of them looked like Jack. And also, they, like, carved Harvey's face and his eye as well after beating it up. I guess Two-Face needs to get his face scarred as, like, an inevitability in every Batman property, but it seems like kind of mean in this one, I'm not gonna lie. So, all points are currently leading to Jack being the one who's orchestrating all the kidnappings, right? Mystery solved? Okay, so this is where it starts to get insane. The gang all go on a field trip to the Gotham History Museum, out of nowhere. I guess for a change of scenery, which was a nice change of pace, I guess. So, Selena's dating, or like kind of leading on both Jack and Bruce at this point, and at the museum, the boys start fighting over her, and like Selena gets really, really mad about it and tells them to stop and storms off. And like you would think she just storms off for a little bit to cool off. No, she full disappears. She's just gone. Yeah, roll call is called for the bus from the history museum and she's missing. And then Barbara blames Bruce and Jack for fighting and making her leave, which like I don't think that's on them, Babs. I think it's Selena's fault, honestly. So Selena has actually disappeared this time. She's not on social media. She hasn't contacted either Bruce or Jack, and our two beautiful boys have to reluctantly team up to find her. You might be asking, so where is Selena? Where did she go? Well, a few days later, school is back in session, and there's finally a new story on Selena Kyle's Instagram. It's a picture of a fountain with the text, "Goodbye, world. It was real. And now it's over. Tomorrow, I shall no longer be here." Which I guess she just couldn't handle Bruce and Jack fighting that much that she decided to do this. Obviously, Bruce starts booking it to where he knows Selena will be, which I don't know how he finds it, but he just does. I guess he tracked her. That's a plot hole. That's fixed, actually. Never mind. Anyway, so obviously Bruce finds her just as she's about to jump. And here, guys, is the big reveal. All those kidnappings, the druggings, it was all Selena Kyle. She orchestrated everything from the beginning. She took money from her trust fund to fund her own kidnapping for some reason, and also has been secretly stealing money from Bruce Wayne this entire time in the background. When? I don't know, man. She did it off screen. I love it when the thief character does all the thieving off screen. It's so fun to watch. This is the one thing I need to mention. For some reason, when Bruce finds her and she's about to jump off, she has her mask on. The mask that she used when she was kidnapping, like, Harvey. But why? She's the one who posted on Insta. It's really stupid. There's no point in unraveling it. It doesn't matter. I think they just really wanted, like, her to have the mask on when Bruce shows up and reveal it and be like, aha, it was me. It's so stupid. So Selena hired some goons to kidnap Bruce, but they accidentally kidnapped Harvey, who was wearing Bruce's trench coat at the time, so the goons couldn't tell it was him. And instead of reducing the ransom so that Harvey's family could afford it and get some money that way, they just sent Harvey back with a now scarred face. So that's cool. Selena seems like such a great person in this version. So this twist obviously makes no sense, because if Selena wants to commit in order to get money for her father, why didn't she just do that earlier? Also, why did she have herself kidnapped to get the non-existent police off her track? She also said that Bruce shouldn't have rescued her because this would have ended sooner. But like how? She couldn't pay the ransom herself and nobody in her family could. And Jack definitely couldn't. And she didn't want Bruce's help. So how could this have ended weeks ago? Why did she tie herself up and stay in the warehouse on her own when there was no one else? And why did her thugs or Bruce in with her if it wasn't part of her plan? I feel like I'm losing my mind. So to stabilize an already chaotic situation, Joker shows up, which is a sentence that can only be described about this comic. My boy is real late in the "you have so much to live for" speech, but he makes it. But Selena is very set on her decision to die. Also, Bruce is like, she played both of us, man. She played both of us from the very beginning. And then the reader is shown these panels of Selena and Jack interacting off screen, where she's getting keys to the janitor's closet with his help and getting introduced to the thugs who would kidnap her later. And it's like, oh, when did this happen? I wish I could have seen that. It's like the story can't decide if it wants to be a mystery or if it wants everyone to know that Selena is the greatest girl boss to ever live. Like, I don't understand what you want from me. Bruce is pleading with Selena that he'll give her the money to save her father, while Jack is still on the fact that she doesn't love him. And Selena, insanely, is so glued to her principles that she doesn't need anyone's help that she jumps off the roof to die. And she just straight up is gone. She, like, disappears in the water. And after Selena presumably dies, our boys' reaction is to fight each other about how the other failed to save her. Which I thought they learned their lesson the first time at the museum, but okay. And Jack corners Bruce and can't bring himself to punch him because they were friends. And then Bruce says, Bruce Wayne has no friends, which made me laugh so hard. I was legitimately worried that I wouldn't be able to stop. So after Selena Kyle's death, there was no investigation done. It was like she committed, and everyone in Gotham High kind of just moves on. Jack seems to be the only one who actually mourns her, and for some inexplicable reason, Bruce's reaction is just that he's eating his sandwich really angrily. Which, like, that's your childhood friend who you watched die? I guess he has mixed emotions considering she pretended to get kidnapped and stole so much of his money. And the money from the trust fund went to Selena's father, so he's all peachy now, and the house that she was living in got sold. But also, here's something to chew on, guys, if you think this is already insane enough. Apparently, the body of Selena Kyle was never recovered, which should be ringing a bunch of alarm bells in your head. You didn't think I was really dead, did you? Because that would be tragic. So, after jumping off a rooftop, likely 70 meters in the air, into the water, Selena Kyle, our protagonist, apparently just swam to shore, where she met up with her now partner Ivy, who's been working for her this whole time, and then she goes to Paris. With what money? I have no idea. How did she get on the plane? Also no idea. Why Paris? Maybe because she's dead in Gotham. Here's the wildest part. On the final panel, the last thing she does after faking her death is create an Instagram story where she's in front of the Eiffel Tower and says that Gotham High High hasn't seen the last of her, which is the dumbest thing she could have done. Because how on earth is she supposed to return to Gotham if there's now going to be warrants for her arrest for faking her death for money? As well as having two people who have very good reason to turn her in for faking multiple kidnappings and assaulting her classmate. If she just disappeared or like changed her identity, this would make sense. But she didn't do that. She posted an Instagram story where she says her own name, shows her face and location, and implies that she's going to come back to Gotham after she literally faked her death. Like, what did I just read? And that's the end of Gotham High. So right now you might be thinking, that's crazy. How does this not have more volumes? It's a masterpiece. Sorry, I can't even fake that. So literally, how do I end this video? I have very little qualms about superhero adaptations because I've always been so used to seeing different writers come in with their own interpretations. I've enjoyed some, hated some, but it's kind of part of the experience of being a superhero fan. For example, I read the entirety of Ed Brubaker's Catwoman run in high school and was absolutely in love with that version of Selena Kyle, to the point where I finished that whole story. It was so good. I really recommend that run. It's really, really good. But I have a real dislike of the Selena Kyle in a lot of the Arkham games, because I think whoever designed the women in that game had a very loud obsession with cleavage, and Selena herself was just a bit too sexualized for me. Also, her voice annoyed me, to a point where I personally found it obnoxious. But in total, I really like seeing different versions of the same characters. Superhero media is essentially fanfiction that any writer can safely participate in. There's just no consistent canon with it. There'll be events, sometimes they'll carry over, and sometimes they won't, depending on whoever is writing. For example, Jason Todd's death in the Batman comics is absolutely something that happens in most current versions of Batman, as is his return as Red Hood. Bruce will always usually have Damian as his biological son via Talia, who is trained by the League of Assassins. Will have had his back broken by Bane at some point, and the Killing Joke is usually something that cripples Barbara and turns her into Oracle. But again, writers will change things around all the time because they have the freedom to, because it's their interpretation. They can get rid of Oracle, or Damian, or Jason Todd if they want to. And for that, Gotham High is not problematic in any serious way. It's just not anything special. It had, like, not much to say, but I also can't say I didn't enjoy it. These are not the actual characters in the same way a lot of other interpretations of Batman aren't technically the actual characters. I think you can compare it to, like, watching a really bad CW show, like a season 3 Riverdale episode where nothing makes sense and events are just happening because they are. These teenagers just wear the skin of their Batman counterparts but aren't committed to it, and I think that's like fine, it's whatever. I don't think I'm reading this comic again, but who knows, I might. It was so stupid I might actually do it. I could really see the Gossip Girl and Riverdale inspiration come through. They were really trying for a Blair Waldorf thing with Selena, I think, which works for her character. I just have no clue what it wanted me to take away from the story. Like, poor people do awful things for money but are ultimately really cool. I don't know, it's stupid. I actually think high school Batman is an interesting concept, but it would just require a lot of thought to make it its own thing. You'd already have to break away a lot from the Bruce Wayne character to even conceive of the guy going to high school. I just can't imagine him doing that. Bruce Wayne seems like someone who'd be in his own head and not be able to socialize with other people his own age if he's to become Batman. And the courage to break away to make this is admirable, I think. For example, Wayne Family Adventures shows pretty out-of-character versions of the Bat family, and people really liked it. Bruce is a lot more human and less stoic in this version. Like, he gets annoyed over petty things like losing a trivia night or seeing his kids wearing, like, Justice League merch to annoy him. He's willing to learn and grow and change for the people around him in this version. And it's less about him and more about his kids, which in itself is appealing to younger generations. You don't need to morph Batman into a teenager again to get young people. You can show the generations that are inspired by him and follow him. So let's answer a question I raised at the beginning of this video. How does DC get their own version of Spider-Man? How do they appeal to the youths in the same way Marvel has? And the answer is actually very simple. And that's to make a Nightwing movie.